event-driven architecture for QAs. Agenda for my talk is what is event-driven architecture, event-driven architecture models, challenges with respect to testing, ways of testing event-driven architecture. What is an event? An event is not same as event notification. Then what is an event? An event is significant occurrence or change in state. It is a condition that triggers a notification. It is agnostic of underlying technology, always public in nature, immutable in nature. It is locally consumed but distributed. The consumer address has changed. This is one of the example of an event. The inventory has been relocated. This is another example of event. Now, what is an event-driven architecture? On the left-hand side, you can see we have event producer, and right-hand side, we have event consumer. And in the center, you can see there is the messaging queue where the events are getting pushed. Producer generates the event and pushes the events to the queue. These events are asynchronous in nature, which means the order of the event reaching the customer is not controlled, and the consumer who have subscribed to the respective topic can only consume these events. Who are the participants in an event-driven architecture? The first one is the producer who has emitted the event, then the consumer, listener or sinks who is waiting for the event to happen, the processor who will consume the event, reaction, what happens when the event has been triggered. Then at the bottom, we can see the messaging infrastructure, which is responsible for transmitting the events. This is a real-time example of like how a retail website works with event-driven architecture. On the left-hand side, you can see the event producer like retail web app, mobile app, point of sale. These are event producer and emit events. Like you can see that in the diagram that placing a new order, question about stock, return request, these are the events which are pushed to the routers. Event router pushes these events to appropriate consumers or subscribers like warehouse management. These are the consumers on the right hand side, finance system or the consumer relationship system who have subscribed for this event. So this is how event driven architecture works in real time. Now coming to event driven architecture models. The first one is publisher subscription model. This is a messaging infrastructure which keeps tracks of subscription. When an event is pushed, it sends the events to each subscriber. After the event is received, it cannot be replayed, and a new subscription do not see the event. Example of this type of model is Google PubSub. Second is event streaming model. In event streaming model, events are written to logs. Events are strictly ordered and durable. Clients do not subscribe to stream. Instead, a client can read from any part of the stream. The client is responsible for advancing its position in the stream. This means client can join at any time and can replay events. Example of this type of event is Kafka or RabbitMQ. When to use event-driven architecture? When you have multiple systems to process the same event, there are multiple systems like inventory is there. Once you have placed order, the inventory should get updated. Suppose shipping information should get updated. So same event is flowing to two different subsystems. So this is a good example when we can use EDA. Then next is real-time processing with minimum time lag. For example, in e-commerce website, complex event processing such as pattern matching or aggregation over time window. And next is high volume, high velocity of data such as IoT system. All these are good use cases where we can use EDA. What are the challenges in testing EDA? The first one is integration testing and debugging. To write an effective integration test case, a quality assurance engineer should have thorough knowledge regarding each of the various services that a software is delivering. Analyzing logs across multiple services could be very tricky. So that's why this is one of the challenges. The next is struggling coordination between the teams. When there are multiple teams working independently and everyone is developing a software, to get an idle time window to test the overall software, it is a real challenge. So proper coordination is needed in this type of systems. Decoupling of database. When we are developing multiple microservices, single business capability is Each of this business capability is responsible for one functionality and has its own database. So testing these systems becomes more complex. Next, complexity. The complexity is directly proportional to the number of microservices which we are delivering. So this is also one of the challenge. Then performance testing. Performance testing, if you're transitioning from a monolithic EDA architecture to EDA architecture, then large number of tiny components are bound to be generated. These components should be communicate consistently. Performance testing for business transaction is very challenging in such case. So again, testing becomes tough. Now coming to functional testing, testing EDAs. So there are two things. First is functional testing and second is non-functional testing. Coming to the functional testing, the first one is unit testing. Unit testing is more or less same as how we do in any other system. We can use mocks or interceptor in initial phase of development for writing the unit test cases. Now coming to the integration testing. This is a bit complex as we don't know when the event is triggered and when it will reach the consumer. So we have to solve this problem. How we are going to solve this problem? Producer can create event and push it to the queue. Testing team can create separate topic and consumers can subscribe to this topic to listen. In this case, testing can be done in real time without much delay. So, and we can do integration testing. Again, contract testing is more or less same how we do in any other system. We can use tools like PACT and we get response in JSON or XML format. Next is non-functional testing. As part of non-functional testing, the first one is performance testing, the second one is resilience testing, and the third one is security testing. These things I will be covering in a bit more detail. Coming to the first one, performance testing. Performance testing of event-driven architecture is important as well as complex. Since there are a lot of moving parts in this system, this architecture, so we need to do a performance testing of each of the component and as well as the subsystem. We have to also test the end-to-end system as a whole. Then only we can identify and benchmark the performance of overall system. So what are we testing in performance testing? First one is to find all the bottlenecks causing the performance issue. Then identify the capacity of the application to handle the load. Third is identifying the optimal infrastructure required for the peak load. Why this is an important thing? Since most of the microservices are hosted on separate node or instance in cloud, so identifying the optimal infrastructure for each component is important for the capacity planning and estimating. The approximate cost which can be incurred can be calculated once we get the proper performance, proper infrastructure on the system. Next is benchmark the endpoint for existing performance. This is also one of the thing what we need to test in performance as part of performance testing. What are the metrics for the performance testing? The first one is data rate. What is data rate? It is the number of input processed per second, which is composed of three things. The first one is number of messages sent or added in the queue, number of messages deleted from the queue, approximate number of messages which is visible in the queue, or we can say unacted messages. The second one is latency. Latency is the time taken for the output event to emerge from the system after the input event has happened. In this case, what happens, since we are working asynchronous system, so when we are receiving the output at the other end, the timestamp for all these events are not in the proper order. So initial latency, what we measure is not the actual latency, and it is called the information latency. Once all these event gets processed with the proper timestamp, then we get the proper system latency. Other metrics which we measure as part of this performance are throughput, response time, and infrastructure which will be used. All these factors are also important, but these are the most important factor when we are working EDA. Now coming to the next thing, that is prerequisite before starting the performance testing. The first one is the get the expected load. So what do we mean by the get the expected load or SLA? It means like since we have a lot of components in a system, so for each of this component, we need to identify that what will be the SLA. For each of this component, the SLA may vary. So if we are working in a, like, suppose we are like moving to a cloud platform from a monolithic architecture or a SO architecture, and we have certain tools which are already configured in the system, like Grafana, Instana, or uh, uh, any of the monitoring tool. So it is easy to get this SLA from those monitoring tools. But suppose we are building from the scratch, then we have to depend on the business to get the actual numbers. And these are really important to get in the initial phase of development so that we can develop our system properly. Now, next is enabling distributed tracing throughout the enterprise, which means, like, since we are working event, we don't know when the event will get triggered. So, and when that event will reach to the other system. So logging is one of the most important thing which help us to trace where that event has gone. So this is also important when we are like we have upstream system or downstream system which are not in the cloud. They are maybe on-premise system, but to test the overall performance of the system, we need to log everything properly. Then only we will be able to identify the bottlenecks. Next is setting up the performance environment. It should be generally like a production-like environment, and so that we can get the actual results. Then setting up the test data, and it definitely should not be mocked. Coming to the factors which can impact the performance. The first factor is network input, output to and from the queue, messaging queue. So when that packet is entering to the message queue and when it is coming out of the queue, and how that queue has been implemented, if it is a parallel stream or a sequential stream, all these factors adds a lot of value to how the performance of the system will be. Now, next is efficiency of the message queue. Then efficiency of the algorithm which is processing the event. It is also one of the important factor for event-driven architecture. Next is the structure of the message. Event message can affect the system performance. So how the structure of the message is there, what should be added in the message, what should be the part of the header, what should be the response, how much, what should be the length of optimal length of the message. All these factors are the part of the message. Then next is performance test visualization. Here on the left hand side, you can see that number of messages which are published with respect to the time, and the number of messages which are processed with respect to the time. This information helps us to calculate the data rate, which we discussed earlier. On the right hand side, we can see the throughput, which denoted by the elements or the packets of the data, which are processed per second. With the help of these graphs, we can analyze the performance of the system under test and identify the bottlenecks if there are any. So these graphs are really important, and it should be monitored properly once we are doing the performance testing, and after that we can analyze these graphs to identify all the bottlenecks. Now coming to the tools which needs to be used, there are a number of tools which are available. Some of them are open source, others are licensed. Depending on the need and the business requirement, proper tools should be chosen. Here are a few examples. The first one is a Locust. Second is Gatling, Apache, JMeter, BlazeMeter. So depending on the requirement and the business need, one can choose a tool, as well as it also depends on you want to go for open source or licensed and the need of the project. Now coming to the next non-functional part, that is resilience testing. Resilience testing is also one part of non-functional testing. It is a method of software testing that focuses on ensuring the application will perform well in real life or chaotic conditions. In other words, it is the ability of an application to withstand the stressful or challenging factors like time to recover from a sort of failure condition. So what could be the failure conditions? Like one of the node is not responding, the load on the system is huge, it is much beyond what you had expected. So the time to recover from such scenario is covered as part of resilience testing. How resilience testing works? Set up a system to test. We need to set up select a system which we want to test. Suppose we want to test the payment system or inventory or the overall system. We need to select the system. Set up an isolated test environment. So in this case, if we are running in a Docker container or a local system or a cloud instance, we need to select an isolated environment where we want to do a resilience testing. The next is apply the principle of chaos engineering. What is chaos engineering? Chaos engineering is the principle of experimenting or distributed system in order to build confidence in the system capability to withstand a turbulence condition in production. And this was started by Netflix in 2010, and Chaos Monkey was one of the tools. Now, as part of the relevant chaos engineering, what are the things we do? First is identify the relevant metrics which should be measured as part of chaos engineering. The metrics could be the input output rates, throughput, time to recovery, latency, relationship between metrics. These are some of the things which should be covered as part of collecting the relevant metrics. Now establish a performance baseline, which means the maximum load which a software can handle without experiencing the performance issue. So this is again very important in EDA. So we need to identify that what is the maximum load our system can bear. Otherwise, we can set up a disaster recovery cluster for the production, suppose, and we can point out, like if in case of any failure or something is not working, we can point out our application to a disaster recovery cluster. Introduction to introduce disruptions and measure impacts. As part of this, I'll give one example in the next slide, how to introduce a disruption. I'll be covering the traffic disruption. So as part of this one, what are things are there? Disrupting the communication with external dependency, injecting malicious input, manipulating traffic control, constraining bandwidth, and shutting down interfaces system, deleting data source and consuming the system resources. These are some of the examples where you can introduce a disruption in the system. Now, once you have done all this, you can plot a graph and collect all the metrics, discuss with the team. And sometimes this really helps us to identify some of the test cases which we have not covered as part of functional testing or performance testing. So some of the things which remain untested, those can be covered, as well as it helps us to identify what are the issues could occur in the production. Now, coming to the example of network disturbance, the Linux tool TC, and there is a tool called Pumbaa. Linux tool TC allows the manipulation of traffic control setting for specific network devices on AWS systems. Pumbaa is a wraparound TC that makes it easier to selectively apply simulated network issue in Docker container. Now, TC Netim is a functionality of Linux TC tool, which allows to manipulate several aspects pertaining to delivery of packets, like adding packet delay, simulating packet loss, constraining the bandwidth, duplicating and reordering the packets. These are some of the things which could happen in an EDA architecture. Next is, for instance, suppose you want to induce a packet delay of 200 millisecond or a packet loss of 10%, then you can use these commands. TC specifies for the traffic control, qdis is a modify the scheduler, add is adding a new rule, dev eth0, you are applying a rule on a specific device on Ethernet 0, root is modify the output traffic scheduler, netim is using the network emulator to emulate a WAN property, loss or delay is the network disturbance which we want to apply. Now coming to the next slide, issues identified in resilience testing. Some of the issues identified are like you can get aware of the logging improvements which needs to be done, improvements in the broken connection in the messaging queue, malformed messages, or a node which is not responding, events are not flowing due to memory leaks. These are some of the things which gets identified. Now tools for resilience testing. These are some of the tools, like first one is like Netflix Seaman Army is developed by Netflix in 2011 after the Chaos Monkey, which became very much popular in 2010. And FIT failure injection tool is again one of the tool from Netflix only. Pumbaa, which we already discussed, it is a chaos testing for Docker container. Now moving to the next one, security testing. Security testing is again a non-functional testing, and it is really important how we handle our event-driven architecture, how the events are handled, and it is very much prone to a lot of vulnerabilities, even though it is hosted on a cloud system. So to do a proper security testing, it is really important. The first one I want to cover is handling of events. Since everything is a uh, events in event-driven architecture, producers are emitting the events, and it is going into the message queue. There are consumers who are consuming the events, but we should be very much careful, like who are the consumers who have subscribed to those events to listen, subscribe to those messages to listen, and they should only consume those events, not the one who have not subscribed for it. Next is logging should be taken care. What should be logged in the event-driven architecture is really important. What everything should be hashed or everything should be not hashed. What should be masked, like payment-related information, this should be masked, and what should not be logged. In case of any security vulnerabilities, these logs help us really well to identify where the security vulnerability has happened and to fix that thing in a proper time. Multi-layer authentication is really important in such case, and it is important because since they're not all the consumers or producers are part of the same system, they could be on-premise system or in the cloud. So a multi-layer authentication is really needed to implement and should be taken care of properly. Next is security of endpoint via PubSub. Suppose they're on-premise system who are consuming your events and they are not in the cloud, but you should put proper security features when they are going outside the cloud. You are taking care of the system under test, but those should be also be taken care of properly. Next is security threat modeling. This is again very important. As part of this one, we take the proper architectural diagram of the application and then identify the most of the issues which can happen. We apply the STRIDE model, which is spoofed identity, tampering with the inputs, repudiation of action, information disclosure, denial of service, elevation of privilege. And this helps us to identify a lot of issue in case of ADA. Now coming to the references, I think I have covered everything. Thank you everyone.